I've got kids through these ages. Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take one giant book, break it down bit by bit, section by section, talk about it, analyze it, laugh at it, do all sorts of fun things. This season, our 13th, is ARDOR or ARDOR by Vladimir Nabokov. First time I pronounced it correctly in the entire run of this podcast. And I'm Chad Poster, Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian with Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox.
Hey Chad, how are you doing?
Okay, my team is still winning. I'm wearing the same clothes and same everything that I had on yesterday when the Cardinals won their first playoff game. So I'm going to stay like this until they lose.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, this is why my family doesn't like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I don't have friends. How are you doing, man?
Fine, man. Just living the dream in Georgia.
Getting ready.
Unfortunately, not the country. I'm in the state, so.
I think being in the country of Georgia is probably more democratic and safer than our country and your state right now.
Yeah.
That man.
Since it's election season, how did you like the debates? Fun?
Woo! That was wild. That was the most scary, like unsettling political event that I have seen in my lifetime.
My favorite was the lady on CNN that just said, "We're on cable, so I can say this. That was a shit show."
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite.
What else are you gonna say? It was so ridiculous. I watched all of it.
Probably a mom that has some kids and like knows how to tell it like it is when it's appropriate, and like she nailed it. Like that's yes, good analysis.
We need someone like her to moderate.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, look, shut the fuck up. Sit down. Shut the fuck up. Stop doing this. But yeah, that was a little bit frightening. I'm not feeling too confident about what's going to happen after the election when we're waiting to count all the mail-in ballots. I don't feel safe, but
whatever. You just gotta stand by. Just stand by and be ready.
I am a boy and I am proud, so I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. Just stand down and stand by.
I don't know why I haven't got any recruitment materials from any of these groups. I don't understand why. Like, it reminds me of when I was in college and there'd be that like fraternity row. I remember walking down it and nobody gave me a single pamphlet at all. They're like, probably not the type of person I want to have a beer with. They're just like with like a backpack full of like 900 pounds of books, making your back all hunched over, and just humping through the campus like, we're not gonna ask him.
He's not. This isn't good for him.
Even like deplorable groups. I can't even join those. I'm just lonely.
I saw a good tweet about like the difference between 2016 and 2020 election, where in 2016, the Republicans were like, "Why do you always call us Nazis?" And in 2020, they're like, "Nazis aren't that bad."
Oh God. Yeah.
Oh,
crazy thing is so my daughter is in kindergarten and they're doing it remote. They're trying to open it up, but doing it remote. So you have kindergartners on Zoom, right? Like you got 15 kindergartners on Zoom. You can imagine like shit show that would be. They are more kind and polite and careful than presidential candidates. The president and a presidential candidate. They're like better behaved. Like I can't let my kid watch the presidential debate because they'll pick up bad habits. And
yeah, exactly.
Unfit for kindergarten if they watch a debate.
I feel like every woman in this country was watching that debate and was like, I fucking know that guy. That guy is the worst.
Yeah.
All women, I don't know how many women listen to our show, but hopefully a lot. And all of you vote against Trump. If there's anyone that's listening to the show that votes for Trump, I'd be shocked. But you never know. But get everyone to vote. If everyone, nobody vote for Trump at all. Please, God, help us.
And maybe on the bright side, Biden doesn't remember being creepy towards people.
Yeah.
He could just be like the kindly, softly, like slipping into not lucid anymore. I don't know.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. I don't know. It's not. This is one of those like lesser of two evils situations where it's like, yeah, but the difference is real huge. Like,
Yeah. Oh, lesser. I mean, there's evil. There's just evil.
Yeah.
Speaking of evil, what did you think of this section? Holy shit! What are we getting into here?
I like, I figured like, because it's advancing in time, that now it's like 1888 and Van's coming back from like doing research, getting a master's degree or whatever in psychology. And I was like, okay, so this is going to like, shift and move along to a new thing. And then like, no, it's basically like him fucking his two cousins, well, half sister and cousin for like 40 pages. Like
like this is the type of thing that could put you on an FBI watch list if you're not careful. You know what I mean? Like,
if I'm not already on one, this podcast is going to land us there for
sure.
Oh,
yeah, that's right. You threatened death upon a sitting president. Apparently, social media doesn't appreciate that.
No, well, it was a kind of a test, to be honest. Like, I wanted to get back.
You threatened. You just wished.
I just said,
fiery, bloody death for the president.
I didn't say bloody death. I said, just go die. Just go die.
All right, fact check me. I'm wrong.
Everyone's gonna die eventually. But fact check you. But I wanted to see if I could get kicked off or blocked, so I wouldn't be able to participate during the debate because it was so infuriating. And Twitter did, but none of the other social media platforms gave a shit, which is interesting, and I think says something about how this is playing out and what's happening in terms of where different messages that are incorrect or like offensive can appear and where they can't.
Yeah. So the Russians aren't hacking and interfering with Instagram as far as that's just booty pics on a jet and here's my dinner. Like that's all Instagram and my kid and your kids, pictures of your kids. Like that's all Instagram.
I don't care.
No, nobody's gonna read political stuff on that.
No.
I mean, you can keep recapping, but I want to go back to that time getting his master's because that chapter 30 was really interesting, I thought.
Yes. Let's start there.
But no, continue. I don't want you to stop. So master's comes back to
artist
summer, and it's like the dream is kind of over, right? It's not. And so it's a more spoiled, tainted time that he has there.
Right. And there's like a couple things, like there's hints that Ada has another lover. I have a question that can start this too. Okay. And maybe I'm just wrong with this, but Marina she's an actress. And initially she was like on the stage, and that's where Demon, had sex with her and made Ada. However, in this, it feels like they're filming a movie.
Yeah.
Okay. In 1888, there weren't movies, right?
I don't know the history of cinema, but it would have been in its extreme infancy.
Yeah, and like then
there's like motion picture, right? I mean,
yeah, and it says
they're being cut into actual like I'm not a film person, but because they even mentioned color.
Yeah, they mentioned having it in color. So I feel like this is definitely a different world now, and like the time is different too. It's not just like the location of things, like where Russia and the US are kind of one, and Turkey's basically Russia. But like, I feel like it also is like the technologies are all different. Everything can be different here. And I mean, that came up a little bit with the telephone in a previous chapter, and like the fact that they don't have cars, or maybe they do, because he references motoring to the city.
Yeah.
But they traditionally, and most of the chapters, they're all on bikes or on horseback. So you have to, like, what the technology is of this world is like uncertain to me a bit. Is it like what things are like they were in 1888, and which things are like this invented part of like anti-Terra.
Yeah.
But so they have their little
movie they're filming too.
Yeah.
It felt like extremely pornographic.
Well, I thought it was a porno.
Okay.
Mark. I don't know. Like, because it's like isn't she like banging 3 different dudes?
I'm not positive. I'm failing at reading comprehension. Sorry, but Yeah, I mean, I was getting that kind of vibe, and they were talking about what's the appropriate amount of pubic hair for the scene, exposed chest in the scene. So like, I was just curious what the.
I feel like there's a part where it said like there's like three, or as a metaphor, Ada's like here's like a parable for you about, and you're gonna find out about this anyway. So like where this woman is having 3 different love affairs with this guy, this guy, this guy, and I thought that was like a recap of what the movie was going to be, since it kind of went into that thereafter. But I could be just inventing that. But yeah, let's go to chapter 30 because this is wild.
Yeah.
And the first thing that jumped out was like. Let me see if I can explain chapter 30. So he's doing his master's degree in psychology and trying to write a dissertation that never got finished called Terra, Eremitic Reality or Collective Dream. So there's a new mention of Terra, like within that context. And I think it's in this chapter too, within like a psychological context, in which it mentions that people get obsessed with, or they start to like, if they're talking to neurotics about Terra, that can like affect them greatly.
Yeah, and almost like only the mad ones are able to envision an anti-Terra or a different, right? Like a different.
I can imagine Terra because we're on anti-Terra.
Yeah. Sorry, like they're the only ones that can imagine our world.
Yes. Right? Yeah. Yes, exactly. So here's the chapter or the paragraph just to make it.
It's making me think that like we're on this type of like purgatory hell of some kind.
Yeah. Feels about right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that this book is an actual reality.
No, because even just with the title of the dissertation, right? Eremitic reality. And we keep getting all of these religious, like heavy religious strokes throughout the piece so far, and then this is what he's writing about as well. Yeah. All the Garden of Eden, all of the temptation, all the sinful stuff, the stuff with apples, and the idea of Eve, or hair coming down, covering the breasts, like this very idyllic, Western idea of what the Garden of Eden looks like.
Right.
And we're getting all of that, and then here we have again collective dream, or like is this the religious, like Christian reality? Someone
also pointed out in terms of the timing and things that Ada refers to wearing a bikini, or that next time you wear a bikini, which that wasn't around in 1888.
Yeah. Wow.
Certain. So here's what he says. So he's working on this dissertation. He interviewed numerous neurotics, among whom there were variety artists and literary men, and at least 3 intellectually lucid but spiritually lost cosmologists who were either in telepathic collusion, they had never met and did not know of each other's existence, or discovered, none knew how or where, by means maybe of forbidden angelos of some kind, a green world rotating in space and spiraling in time, which in terms of matter and mind was like ours, in which they described in the same specific details as 3 people watching from 3 separate windows would a carnival show in the same street.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. So it's like the 3 Christs of Ypsilanti or whatever, but like it's like the UFO alien drawings.
Yeah, we just got all Terry Pratchett here all of a sudden. Just floating on a turtleback or something. I have no idea what's going on.
I know. It's like I really keep every time that there's a tease of the Terra stuff, I want more. And like if we remember back, it's kind of weird that the first 3 chapters really had this like broad scope of things, and then we've just been in Van and Ada's life since then.
Yeah, and he drops it on you in such this like scientific overload of like your eyes almost kind of want to glaze over and get through it, and then you reread it a few times and you're like, this is insane.
Yeah. In theory, some people have a vision of Terra and it's the same. They have access to it. They're either crazy people or cosmologists. Who knows? But then he goes.
But think of like John on the island of Patmos, right?
Yeah.
You take somebody who I think was like dipped in hot oil. I could be wrong. And so his body, he's gone through severe physical trauma. They maroon you in a cave on an island, and inside that cave is where you have all of the dreams and visions for the book of Revelation. And so it's this mad person. It's this like dreamer type person that's coming up with, and again, like the reality or collective dream. I think it's this really interesting discussion of these mad people are the ones that can see this thing and nobody else can, because they're connected into the mainland and to their normal lives and aren't part of this like collective madness or whatever. Yeah. It's really interesting.
I'm going to raise the stakes for you right here, Brian. We have a listener who just commented that they've read this book 5 times and loving the fact that we talk about it. But now I'm feeling super intimidated.
Oh, that's my first time reading it. After watching 2 presidential candidates debate and get nothing right, I'm not worried about getting something wrong. Are you kidding me? Being public, being wrong, not a big deal. I used to be terrified of it, but who cares anymore?
Who cares? I mean, there's all that bad shit happening in Philadelphia anyways.
But even more though with this first part, I was really interested too with the name that he gives himself, his act that he's doing, his like vaudeville type act thing that he's doing while he's over there. What was it? Masco da Gama.
Yeah.
Right? It's so weird. It's like I looked up wondering if it was an anagram or not, and a lot of people think it's something that's related or close to Val da Gama, the Marqués de Val da Gama.
Oh.
Which you can go down your own rabbit hole with that, but it's interesting the way it ties in with all that craziness happening in London with kind of like a Russian-ish person from America. I don't know. I just think it's, yeah.
And it all goes back to him being able to walk on his hands and do tricks walking on his hands.
But there's a Pushkin quote about London, and according to Pushkin, that England is the fatherland of cartoon and parody. Right, and so there's a lot of Pushkin reference in here as well. And so when we see Van over there, it is kind of cartoonish and it is a lot of parody. So it's very, I don't know. It's just again the insanity and the layers that Nabokov is doing here with this work. It's I'll have to read it 5 times to even.
Well, I'm gonna blow your mind here. So that same person just said that they have a question for us. Okay. And the question is, okay, I'm just going to read this. I have a question. How you guys haven't realized that Van's mother is Marina and not Aqua?
Well, I'm trying to handle 900 other things as well, but okay.
I haven't realized that until reading that statement. And that's interesting. I'm curious to see where that's revealed or how that happens. Because like, if we take this thing at face value, like I think we did, like that's a mistake on our part. It's part of like taking anything at face value in a Nabokov book is a bit tricky. I love the sentence though about
talking about uterine, right? There's when they, I forget the exact terminology, but when talking about Lucette and Ada and Van, they start using uterine. What was this second? I'll find it later.
Yeah, I kind of remember that too. But I love the part where it's describing his stage or what he does when he does this performance. Van on the stage is performing organically what his figures of speech were to perform later in life. Acrobatic wonders that had never been expected from them and which frighten children. That might be one of my favorite lines. Love it. So yeah, so he goes back home to America, goes back to Artist Hall, is jealous. He has a big necklace for Ada, sees her hand being kissed by some guy that's like Cordula's brother, and flips his shit and like breaks it all apart and then shatters it all over the floor. And then she like rushes up to him and everything's kind of okay again in a way. They're back together for the first time since their separation. And the necklace is also a reference back to the governess, whatever she is, the Mademoiselle that is the writer and wrote that necklace story where the person loses the necklace and then earns back all the money and it turns out to be fake. The Maupassant story, which even then is referenced here as using the pseudonym Guillaume de Montparnasse instead of, and like slightly different. So yeah, interesting. I don't know what to say about this part, but this is where that section is where she was in dreadful trouble. Yes, she was sad, she replied. She was in dreadful trouble. Her quandary might drive her insane if she did not know that her heart was pure. She could explain it best by parable. She was like the girl in a film he would see soon, who is in the triple throes of a tragedy which she must conceal lest she lose her only true love, the head of the arrow. And it was referenced later that artist means
Artist.
Arrow. The point of the pain. In secret, she is simultaneously struggling with three torments, trying to get rid of a dreary, dragging affair with a married man whom she pities, trying to nip in the bud, in the sticky red bud, Jesus fucking Christ, a crazy adventure with an attractive young fool whom she pities even more, and trying to keep intact the love of the only man who is all her life and who is above pity, above the poverty of her feminine pity, because as the script says, his ego is richer and prouder than anything those two poor worms could imagine. So that's what I thought. That's what I thought that the movie that they're filming is, and the fact that the director is Vronsky is another Anna Karenina reference, and this seems to almost have an Anna Karenina reference too, with the difference that like in the sense that in this case Anna would be having an affair with both her husband from the book and with Vronsky, and then a third person. But like it reminded me of that like in a weird way. And then when I flip the page and see Vronsky, is like maybe this is something.
Yeah.
So, yep. Love it. That part's fun. Then this script thing, 32. The script is pretty interesting, especially the part that I liked is on page 198, where.
Before you skip there, though, so you get that whole part about the parable, and we learn of kind of Ada's anguish, right? I'll never be a biologist. My passion for creeping creatures is great. All of that. Mm-hmm. They reference a little bit about Chekhov and one of Chekhov's plays with diamonds, and then the very next page on 194, they start talking about guns and pistols and various weapons. And so I thought it was kind of like a sly little nod that our author's playing with here, with referencing Chekhov, and right next to it start to begin talking about guns. And I thought it was very, very funny. Again, I could see Vlad's little wry smile as he's typing away or writing that part out.
That's funny. I didn't even put that together, but the thing that I focused on where it says that he wants a brace of dueling pistols as if setting up a future duel, which would also, and then it is Chekhov's gun, which obviously, yeah, that all tracks together. I do think the part there is pretty funny where they're talking about where the Chekhov part where it is, where she's like, I'm going to be a spinster. And he's like, I'll just be a pathetic second-rate brave Marina. And he's like, well, that bit about spinsters is rot. We'll pull it off somehow. We'll become more and more distant relations in artistically forged papers and finally dwindle to mere namesakes. Or the worst, we shall live quietly. You as my housekeeper, I as your epileptic. And then, as in your Chekhov, we shall see the whole sky swarm with diamonds. Yep. So they're already scheming. He's scheming for like how they're going to just keep this up. Yeah. Artistically forged documents is fun. That's a fun phrase.
But no, I find it like, again, that chapter 30 seems to be like this, almost like a crux in the way, like we know Van's been demolished this whole time, but it really switches with chapter 30, I think.
Yeah.
Especially taking on that persona, that trickster persona. Like literally when he was there, and then coming back here, and even Ada is saying like how like vulgar how he's changed, and how like he's not the same person, and like again you're seeing the jealousy's coming out more with him or whatever, but whatever veneer he had of kind of being I don't know, like a handsome devil is almost gone at this point. Like it's just becoming more monstrous at this point.
Yeah, and that is all the references. The one that I was going to jump to, the 198, is kind of like it really doubles down on the idea that he is an unreliable narrator of like the highest sort. Or he says, like, now that I am writing this, after so many hollows and heights of time, I find it not easy to separate our conversation as set down in an inevitably stylized form and the drone of complaints, turning out in sordid betrayals that obsessed young Van in his dull nightmare. Where like he switches there from the I'm writing this now into like Van being the character again, which is interesting, and just sort of like questioning how much this is stylized, quote unquote, instead of, you know, actual.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, another great line. There will be no lunch today, said Ada. It'll be some messy snack at the poolside and sticky drinks all day. Yeah, and she asks for like a Coke, doesn't she? Like the time of the things that are in here are like all the fuck over the place. Like,
and it's almost like it's like corn syrup, right? Because they're talking about clear honey.
Yeah.
Or yeah, whatever. I mean, maybe that's a thing. I don't know. They're eating caviar sandwiches. So this is a world I don't know about.
Oh yeah, we're the first. Someone asked a question, and we are about to get to that part.
Oh,
it's the part that I think we were talking about beforehand, but
oh, okay, yeah.
But we weren't so certain how to go about this. Yeah, so it is in this chapter, though.
What about the grotesque governess really written a novel entitled Les Enfants Maudits, like the accursed children?
Yeah.
Right?
Is the Cursed Children, okay, so she's written that novel. Is that the novel that's becoming the script?
I'm not sure about it, but I just was really interested in the word accursed.
Yeah. Yeah.
When thinking about incest, or, you know, if, you know, Shocker Marina is his mom, like they really are accursed.
Yeah,
right?
True. Yeah, and I think this is the film, because like to be filmed by Frivolous Dummies, now discussing its adaptation, to be made even triter than the original Book of the Fortnight and its gurgling blurbs. And then they do say several times, like, thankfully the novelist isn't paying attention to this. So
it adds new meaning. Well, maybe not new meaning, but it really shades when you think about like demon seed, right? And coming from demon as the father, and then how the kids are coming out of his relationships, and it's all wicked, and it's all twisted, and it's the fruit of this. Like, yeah, it's a really interesting thing that I think he's doing with this family tree.
Yeah, I'm playing with it. It's a very Southern family tree, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Shouldn't make fun of myself. But okay, so now we get the part that has just been asked about, of like the relationship between.
Well, before we get there, I just want to read this one part, 199.
Yeah.
I thought it's really interesting the way before, like when Nabokov kind of shifts into that, like beautifully describing the physical of people, and Rodrigo had mentioned it too, about, you know, describing a little protruding bone on the back of the neck, or how, like the really interesting concrete details. And then I really like the contrast of that earlier description of how Van sees her now on 199.
Right.
Was she really beautiful? Was she at least what they call attractive? She was exasperation. She was torture. The silly girl had heaped her hair under her rubber cap, and this gave an unfamiliar, vaguely clinical look to her neck, with its odd dark wisps and strags, as if she had obtained a nurse's job and would never dance again. Her faded bluish-gray one-piece swimsuit had a spot of grease and a hole above the hip, nibbled through, one might conjecture, by a tallow-starved larva, and seemed much too short for careless comfort. She smelled of damp cotton, auxiliary tufts, and nunifars, like matophilia. None of those minor matters would have annoyed Van had she and he been alone together, but the presence of the all-male actor made everything obscene, drab, and insupportable. We moved back to the lip of the pool. Like, I thought it was such a really interesting way of shifting the way he's seeing her in that time and place versus before.
Yeah.
It really shows, I think we're seeing a much different Van coming back from overseas from school.
That's interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. It's like he's not just matured, but there's something different. There's something more crass, more vulgar, more direct. And like that phrase, the presence of the all male actor, is like feels like it doesn't make sense, right?
There's a lot of changing and like transitioning that's taking place in the book so far, and so I think that is a really interesting thing to point out, especially when talking about like a metamorphosis, obviously with his interest in moths and butterflies and whatnot. But yeah,
the all male, and it's like that presence, the all maleness of it, I see as like a threat to him, and that this is a jealousy sort of like, is she really attractive? Well, right now it's shitty, but if we were alone, it would have been fine.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's interesting, especially because we kind of know that he's not good. like waiting for that shoe to drop. I do
kind of know. It's like watching Silence of the Lambs. That Lecter guy seems like a bad apple to me.
Yeah. As was mentioned in the chat, the tone is much darker on the second visit to Artist. Like there's a lot. It even begins. I was going to point this out, but skip past it. But there,
and it feels like David Lynchian.
Right? You did it.
Yeah. No. Whereas before it's idyllic. And it's very like soft and beautiful and slow. And then here it's like we're looking at a worn hole in a swimsuit, and he's picturing like a maggot eating through it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it has that very just strange, uncomfortable, darker tone to it for sure.
It's no longer as I said in the chat too, it's no longer innocent in the same way.
Yeah, it's like the fruit has fallen from the tree and it's just rotting. And you're seeing the rotten fruit by the beautiful tree, kind of.
Yeah, that's where back on 188. I was going to mention this, where this part, excluding each other, private swoons split him in two. The devastating certainty that as soon as he reached, in a labyrinth of a nightmare, a brightly remembered small room with a bed and a child's washstand, she would join him there in her new, smooth, long beauty. And on the shade side, the pang and panic of finding her changed, hating what he wanted, condemning it as wrong, explaining to him dreadful new circumstances, that they both were dead or existed only as extras in a house rented for a motion picture.
Wow.
So yeah, so like there's a bright side, the dark side there too, of both. I really love on 200 this line.
I really feel like we're in hell. Like, no, you know what I mean though? Like, it's like there is an absence of like good.
Yeah, I feel that too. Yeah.
I mean, not like, obviously not brimstone and fire and sulfur, all that kind of stuff, but just like the vacuum of goodness. Like we are in that, like that is anti-Terra.
Oh, God. Very true. This part where she's at the pool and they like the guy tries to grab her and she throws like the ball. So she evaded the grab of his despair by embracing the big orange ball she had just fished out and pushing him away with that shield. She then threw it towards Van, who slapped it aside. This is my favorite part. Refusing the gambit, ignoring the gamble, scorning the gambler. I think that's like a great little play. I love those kind of things. Even if they're like sort of winky and like, whatever. It's just, it's fun to read. It's fun to read that.
Yeah. That's so very much, like a Nabokov line.
So you can explain what happens then with Lucette. I think.
Well, I honestly don't know. I take Lucette as being purely innocent, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah,
because she's hanging out. She's falling in love with Van and his schemes and his charm or whatever, and then it's bothering them because they don't want to get caught. They don't want to get in trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're almost trying to invent what sounds you're hearing, what things you're seeing, so that when she does innocently go tell somebody, they have an excuse. I mean, there is like a scene where they're almost involved in it, like a three-way at one point. It was just super uncomfortable. Like,
yeah,
uncomfortable. And I thought, oh God, we're not going to go there, are we? Like, but I mean, there's that part of it. But then later it's like they lock her to try to play hide and seek and lock her into, armoires or whatever to to go bang while she's banging on the door to get out, or it's a really dark, odd chapter.
It's way more. If the first, okay, so here's a good way to think about it too. The first time that we read about their sexual relationship, it was with when Rodrigo was on, and I was like, this is also beautiful. Like, if you put aside the incest, it's beautiful.
It was passionate and it was fiery, and there was a literal fire.
There's a literal fire.
Fire, and it was passionate and it was fiery. And this time it's secretive and it's dirty,
perverted,
very perverted, and I feel like as like the author wants us to get kind of comfortable with it, and then he wants to mess our footing up a little bit, and squeeze more uncomfortability into the reader. And
exactly,
very, very successful.
Yeah. Yep.
Very well done.
I mean, it was the first one that I underlined was on page where is it, 205, where it says like they're kissing, and he's like, Lucette kissed his hand, then attacked him. Cut it out, he said, as he wriggled against as she wriggled against his bare thorax. You're unpleasantly cold, child. And then a few paragraphs later, why, yes, growled Ada with a shiver of pleasure, and leaning over, kissed him on the mouth. He struggled to rise. The two girls were now kissing him alternately, then kissing each other, then getting busy upon him again. Ada in perilous silence, Lucette with soft squeals of delight. Like, that's straight up, like, yeah, like, not good, and like porny.
Yeah, and wasn't there even a part 2 where he's talking about old men reading books in their libraries, and they're reading these terrible, these terrible salacious scenes and becoming erect. Ooh, are you secretly becoming erect reading something like this? Like, there's even like, it was just like this meta aspect of him knowing what he's doing and say, is this provoking you? Is this right? Like, it's yeah, I mean, like, he knows what he's doing, and I don't know if he delights in it or not, but yeah, it's,
and there always is like
a certain torture for sure.
Because there's always that, like, there was an old guy earlier who was like the painter who like always lifted her up and was like very creepy.
Yeah.
Right. The old guy is always the creep. And that, in that sense, it was set up against like, this is very innocent. What they're doing is innocent and love and filled with light. And this guy's like the old creeper. And now that we're moving into like something else, it does start to play with a different sort of figure that is getting off on it.
Yeah, and too, like, it's almost as if Ada's starting to realize that that Lucette is attracted to Van, and Van might be interested in something younger and more nymph-like than her.
Right. And that was creeping me out too, because I was getting that vibe at first where like his thing with Ada has changed in a sense. Like, at some point when they're going away, when they're parting, she's like, what if, there's somebody else, and he's like, oh, it must be this Cordula that she's gonna have this like lesbian love affair with, and blah blah blah. And when he comes back, he sees her, and it's like, you're no longer pure. He doesn't see her as pure anymore.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh well, Lucette's pretty sexy too. She's like pure. She's the age that you were when we met. And that's very creepy.
I feel like he illustrates it in maybe like the most like uncomfortable, one of the most uncomfortable ways possible in describing the difference of as far as like what stage they are in adolescence, how their nipples are.
Yeah.
Like, very like he does it like
pubic hair
way, but one that's developing hair and one that's more bud-like, or hasn't hit puberty yet. And the changing attraction. And I think I prefer the non-puberty breasts versus the pubescent breasts. And it's just extremely, like, it just shows, again, like it's so much darker and so much more uncomfortable than it ever has been.
Yeah.
There's a real big shift after chapter 30.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And this is the part where I think that you were talking about earlier, on 213. Ada thought up a plan that was not simple. So they're having the problem of Lucette always hanging around. And so Ada thought up a plan that was not simple, was not clever, and moreover worked the wrong way. Perhaps she did it on purpose. And then in parentheses, strike out, please, Van. The idea was to have Van fool Lucette by petting her in Ada's presence while kissing Ada at the same time, and by caressing and kissing Lucette when Ada was away in the woods, botanizing. This, Ada affirmed, would achieve two ends: assuage the pubescent child's jealousy and act as an alibi in case she caught them in the middle of a more ambiguous romp. The three of them cuddled and cosseted so frequently and so thoroughly that at last one afternoon on the long-suffering black divan, he and Ada could no longer restrain their amorous excitement, and under the absurd pretext of a hide-and-seek game, they locked up Lucette in a closet used for storing bound volumes of the Kaluga Waters and the Lugano Sun, and frantically made love while the child knocked and called and kicked until the key fell out and the keyhole turned an angry green, or jealous. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's not cool. Like, I'm just gonna put that out there.
But cinematically, I mean, it's setting up such like fantastic, vivid images and scenes. The idea of a child locked, and then seeing what you can see through the peephole, and seeing the sister and the cousin or brother together. Like, imagine, like, what an incredible, arresting scene that would be.
Yeah.
Or even later when they're looking out the window and seeing her kind of skip down the lane, catching butterflies and crickets and picking a chanterelle and pretending to eat it, but not like so like innocent and pure and childlike, while they are having incestual sex.
Yeah, like everywhere.
Yeah,
as much as possible. Like, there's so many times that references like, well, then they would do that after she had gotten off like 8 times. Like, there's like it keeps numbering things in ways, just dropping in like numbers that are like, okay, this isn't like just a one-off. This isn't just like a casual. This is like a consistent of event. But yeah, the Lucette, I don't know that how much do we know about her as a character yet? Like, I can't really define who she is, really, aside from being younger.
Yeah, to me, she just kind of seems vaguely painted as like little sister.
Yeah, yeah.
And like that annoying thing that we've, the third wheel that we've all, experienced at some point in our lives. Like me being the third. Usually, it's me being the third wheel.
Same.
Yeah, but
that's why I usually start out when I'm in the third wheel position. I'm like, okay, guys, why don't you both make out with me, and then we'll all do this together, and then you guys can do it also, and I won't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah.
How many times that's worked? 0.
What the heck was going on here with the piano teacher?
Okay, I think the piano teacher is fucking Ada.
Okay, because he shakes hands, right? He shakes hands, and he goes back to Ada. He's like, do not touch my hand until I wash this, right? Like, that guy's disgusting, or whatever is going on there, right? He has this. I just shook hands with one of the most disgusting people, and then he immediately falls over, like he's gonna die right after that handshake incident.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, but there's that reference on 134 where she comes back when she thinks that she might be pregnant and goes to the doctor and is like, he comes back and Van's like, I've been good, I even got like a condom and blah blah blah, like I hope everything's okay. And he's like, is it all fine? And she's like, yeah, it's fine, Van, whatever. Like, I started having my period on the way home, but right before that, she smells like smoke. And he starts asking about it, and this is a really great rhythmic section.
Yeah.
Ada came back just before dinner time. Worries? He met her as she climbed rather wearily the grand staircase, trailing her vanity bag by its strap up the steps behind her. Worries? She smelled of tobacco, either because, as she said, she had spent an hour in a compartment for smokers, or had smoked, she added, a cigarette or two herself in the doctor's waiting room, or else because, and this she did not say, her unknown lover was a heavy smoker, his open red mouth full of rolling blue fog. So I think that she has another lover. I think that this is that's sort of hinted at here. And the piano guy is the guy I think that it is. I don't know why, though. I might just be making that all up.
Well, if we're going with the kind of Garden of Eden imagery that's been, that he's used a lot up to this point, he does offer fruit to the
yeah. He always brings an apple or a pear.
Apple or a pear, and it's like I think he calls it an inedible pear, right? Like he's not even, whatever he's tempting them with isn't even because he's like old and kind of gross, and so there could be, maybe there's something there.
Yeah,
Sixth reading, I might get it. I don't know.
Same here.
I'm just working out who is who and who is married to who. I don't know that yet.
And this is just straight up dirty.
Wait, is it just me? Do you keep having to flip to the beginning and try to figure out, like, keep looking at the family tree like every 10 pages because I can't keep this shit straight.
Yeah, I've kind of given up. I sort of know who I know and like what their situation is, but I don't really know. Like, I'm just treating them as related.
It reminds me of like Undergrad being the Henriette, and you're like, oh crap. Like who the fuck is Cumberland or Cumberbund or what is going on?
Oh man.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there's a really dirty part where I knew that there's a part where it was talking about shaving. And it's like 217. One day he brought his shaving kit along and helped her to get rid of all 3 patches of body hair. Now I'm sure, he said, and you are his Ada, and that's your green prayer carpet, which I take as like a blowjob reference. But that might just be me being dirty. Oh, yeah. This is it. This is the other reason I thought that she's having sex with someone else, is that once in a small alder thicket, duplicated in black by the blue stream, they found a garter which was certainly hers. She could not deny it, but which Van was positive she had never worn on her stockingless summer trips to the magic islet. So where they're going to bang, they find this, and I feel like that was a moment where I was like, she has someone else. Yeah. And it's probably someone who's coming to the house regularly, because it's not like they go places. Generally, they're just there, and people are coming to them for one reason or another. And initially, I thought it was Dr. Krolik, but he's dead. Mm-hmm. And then, like, the piano guy is around. And what's his full name? It's like something kind of Nabokovian as well. And it's not Van Veen, which is so perfect, but it's like,
yeah,
it's what is it? It's not Bill, is it? I can't find it. But they do say that there are names that are given in here, and I thought that it was one that sounded like Jesus. What's the name of the person in Lolita? Not Humbert, but
Quinty?
Yes. I don't know where it is, though. I can't find it.
Are you a big Scrabble player? I know a lot of literary people love Scrabble.
Suck ass at Scrabble. Like, I am ass sucking at Scrabble 100%. The problem I have is I always want to play a word that I think is cool instead of playing the word that gets you points. Like, I can't switch that part of my brain on. I just want to be like, oh shit, this is a really cool word. Like, it's only worth like 8 points, but it's like, it's like a bonus in some other way. It's like not part of the game. So no, I'm not good at Scrabble. I'm very bad at it. You know who's really good is Tom Roberge.
Yeah. Philip Rack.
Philip Rack.
Like a porn.
Philip Rack. See, that sounds like a rival.
Philip Rack, an insignificant but on the whole likable young musician who in his baggy trunks looked even more dejected and awkward than in the green velvet suit he thought fit to wear for the piano lessons he gave Lisette, while trying to take a picture of the chop-licking animal and the girl's parted breasts with her half-prone position helped to disclose the opening of her bathing suit. It was a little slightly lecherous. Yeah. Slightly lecherous.
Is he the one who touches her through the hole too, or who touches her through the hole?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I feel like it was him, but I might be misremembering that. But somebody like pokes through her hole in the bathing suit, and that sets Van off as well.
Yeah, I feel like I read through the Scrabble part fast, but I feel like you could probably do you could get a job at the NSA if you go through and write a dissertation on this. I'm sure there's so many games and stuff that he's playing with. I got the really obvious ones with stealing the words ADA and hiding them in different places of the house that are, under the apron. The D was under the aproned armchair, so it's spelled like they're spelling the name out. I get that stuff, but there's the other ones where what are the letters they have and what are the games? I just don't have time on it.
The one that I couldn't figure out is where she was speaking at the same time saying casually, I would much prefer the Benton lamp here, but it is out of kerosene. Oh, kerosene, that's the word that it is. Got it. But kerosene's spelled wrong. That's why I got confused. Because the next thing is the 7 letters she took, SRENOKI, and was sorting out in her thing, now formed in quick and as it were a self-imposed rearrangement. The keyword of the chance sentence that had attended the random assemblage. And those letters spell out kerosene.
Okay.
Pedro is the person who pokes through the bathing suit. But yeah, I didn't know what to do with all of the Scrabble part. Like I figured the same thing. I mean, the ban I ada, that's very obvious. That's very easy. It's almost like too easy that it's a trick.
Yeah.
But then REMNILK and LINKREM, I don't know about those either. Or like the Kremli, like there's somebody has probably broken this all down into a million things. They're playing in like
Russian Scrabble too, right? It's in the Cyrillic or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, Cyrillic, yeah. Yeah, so that chapter was kind of fun though, because it's like giving a weird other history of Scrabble, which is like, and it even references like, oh, this game is still popular like 100 years later by like somebody else invented it and called it Scrabble, but what we called it was whatever it was, Flavita, because it meant like yellow. It meant like that wood color, like the yellow wood color of the tiles that are Scrabble tiles. Like it's so interesting, like how and every letter of the Cyrillic alphabet had a number of points. So like the Cyrillic Scrabble,
the yellow butterfly is throughout this as well, right? With ADA, so makes sense that he'd be again tying that in. Guy's crazy.
It's so much.
Crazy.
So yeah, the last chapter that we read, 37, the last one for today, was another one like 30 that sort of broke things for me a little bit. Because it has Terra again. So he's lying there reading Ratner on Terra, a difficult and depressing work. And Ratner, who half-heartedly denied any objective existence to the sibling planet in his text, but grudgingly accepted it in obscure notes, inconveniently placed between chapters. This is Doll's Reign, blah, 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 blah. But like, this is apparently a book that exists of someone writing on Terra and denying that this planet exists, but then sort of acknowledging it. So like, the Terra stuff is fascinating to me. And that's one that I'm like really curious to where more of it's going to come up, or I assume it will. I assume there's going to be more information about that at some point, or like more revelations. And I'm really looking forward to that. But this is also the chapter where Marina's like, "Come on, Van, quit making out with Lucette. Like, don't be kissing my 11-year-old daughter." And he's like, "Oh, it must have been a mistake. There's blah, blah, blah." Or she's like, the maid saw you kissing my daughter. He's like, "Oh, I was just carrying Ada across. Like, she must have misinterpreted." She's like, "I wasn't talking about her. She's like a teenager. I'm talking about Lucette." And you're like, "Oh, shit."
I don't mind incest. It's just really little kid incest is where that's where I draw the line. Like, what the hell? What world is this? What is going on?
I know. That is like the disorientation of the time and space of it all is also disorienting to the morality of it, in a way. Like those two things are kind of running in parallel, where the morality feels like if it had started from like on Earth, these things are okay, these things are not. We're in a different place than where he was playing the game of like, this seems very innocent and cute, and now it's not. And like by mixing up like what the world is and trying to figure out what anti-Terra is and what technology there is and like what time period is this, what really is happening, like the morality is also brought into question through that, I think.
Yeah, that's why I don't know. It just feels like this like purgatory, like this wicked garden of some kind. It's just it feels really like I don't know. There's a lack of morality or code or compass in this world we're living in.
Yeah. Absolutely, and especially like if
they know they're wrong, but it's like there's no consequence for anything yet. So it's just it's a bizarre place.
Fair word. I don't know. Do you have any other comments on this section?
No, it was it was hard and difficult, but again, I still think it's in that Nabokovian way where it's still a delight. And even though it's so uncomfortable and it's so hard, it's still I'm in awe of how it's done.
Yeah, me too. I really like it, and I like this section quite a bit.
It's the same way with like when we'd read 4x4, and that's not a fun book to read, but it is such a delight at the same time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Book that should be on the short list for the Shirley Jackson Award, but alas,
how it's not
that in there.
How it's not. I don't know. That was one of the most fantastic books of the year, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're probably both a little biased with open letter titles. So.
Just a touch.
I'm not. I hate most of your guys' shit.
I know. It's also
here and there. So.
Oh man.
All right. My favorites. Oh, go ahead.
There's an interesting point that's made in the chat too, is that the same person that has read it a number of times says, I think Ada and Van are trying to get back their love innocence by using Lucette as like she is the innocent part by recapturing, and that does make a lot of sense, and is like even if it's like almost subconscious on their part, a very clear like psychological thing that could be happening.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that on 214. This summer is so much sadder than the other.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah.
Oof. So for next week, we're going to go over 3 chapters. So we've read 37 chapters in the first 4 weeks of this. And then all of a sudden we have 2 very long chapters, which is kind of interesting. I'm not sure what this is going to be, but I just noticed that it's only 38 through 40, or pages 236 through 290. Whereas today we went over 9 chapters. So I'm excited to read this.
Yeah.
And get into it. But do you have a favorite line from this? I've read so many of mine, but I'm going to find another one.
I don't know if favorite line is my favorite, but I was just thinking recently, it just made me laugh because I was thinking recently of, who was it, Jerry Falwell Jr. that got caught having an affair, and the excuses that he was using for his affair were like bonkers. Right, where he got caught, like pictures of him with his fly down. He said, "Oh, it's because she was pregnant and getting big, and so I took my pants down to like show to make her feel more comfortable." Or like the thought process like that men come up with. Good Lord, like idiot. I just wrote in the margin Jerry Falwell Jr. So I could remember that. On page 229. They're worried that Lucette is catching on to their sexual relationship between Van and Ada. I would like to know, said Van, the meaning of her interesting observation. Ask her, Ada, dear. She thinks we're going to play Scrabble without her, said Ada, or go through those Oriental gymnastics, which you remember, Van. You began teaching me, as you remember. Oh, I remember. You remember I showed you what my teacher of athletics, you remember his name, King Wing, taught me? You remember a lot. Ha ha, said Lucette in front of them in her green pajamas, suntan, chest bare, legs parted, arms akimbo. The idea of, you were teaching me the gymnastics. Your athletics coach taught you. Oh, yes, I do remember our athletics.
I love that. I love that, dude. That's the one I was going to say, but I'm searching for a new line because I love the King Wing.
I have to keep reminding myself that Nabokov likes to be funny and wants to be funny. And I think he writes with a lot of passion, with a lot of delight, but I think there's always humor, and he likes to do it in the strangest and darkest ways possible. And so I think that's another reminder of his humor in his writing.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our listeners said their favorite line was "warm breath of fulfilled ambition."
Oh, that was a good one. I
That's
like
really
that.
good. The one that I'm going to read is part of the Terra thing. So back in chapter 30, the old gentleman also wrote a letter to Demon asking him to make his son forget physical stunts for the sake of philosophy and psychiatry, especially since Van was the first American to have won, at 17, the Dudley Prize for an essay on insanity and eternal life. Van was not quite sure yet. I love that.
Yeah, exact same one.
Yeah. Insanity and eternal life.
An essay on insanity and eternal life.
Baller.
It goes. I think again, it goes back with religion and reality, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Dichotomy a lot as well.
Man. Okay. Well, I think we'll leave off there, but I'm excited to be back here next Wednesday and go through this next chunk. We're almost done with part 1. After next week, we'll be almost done with part 1, and there's 5 parts to this, so it's kind of
what a beastly book we're going through. Good Lord.
Yeah, I know that the first part is the long. It's basically half the book, and our last episode covers 2 parts, part 4 and part 5. But I'm always curious when books have parts, like what they switch to or how they manage what the function of that is.
All right, be patient with us. This is our first time reading it. I don't know what I don't know.
I don't know a lot,
which is a lot.
Very cool. Thanks, man. I'll see you next week.